Listen, I used to believe that if you worked hard enough in the United States, the system would reward you. That was the first lie. And there was thousands more. And before you turned 10, you'd already accepted most of them as your truth and destiny. I'm going to walk you through the full list of lies, decoys, and deliberate misdirects that were designed specifically to keep you broke, compliant, and too distracted to notice what was actually being done to you. Every merit system you've been conditioned to obey, every gender stereotype, every depiction of patriotism, and even the laws of love are now being debunked in real time. It's no longer conspiracy theories. By now you should know you were strategically programmed to become the most powerless version of yourself. Distracted enough to stay busy, divided enough to stay weak, delusional enough to keep on waiting for somebody else to come save you. My name is Tijuana Jackson. I'm a clarity coach. If you working your ass off, if you stressing your ass off, you keep planning your ass off, but you still don't seem to get nowhere, it ain't got nothing to do with your willpower or your discipline. It's usually an emotional pattern running in the background that's quietly messing with your decisions and follow through. And those emotional blind spots are the real reasons you remain stuck in life. I'm hosting a live 90-minute workshop where me and Romani Malco help you identify the pattern that's actually holding your progress and get you clear on the next steps you need to take so your emotional blind spots never cripple your potential again. You want to work with a real one? Link is in the description. Propaganda programming starts when you young, moist, and powerless like them island boys. Second graders don't ask to verify the curriculum. And that's the whole point. This ain't cap, family. This is eugenics. From 1902 to 1953, John D. Rockefeller and Andrew Carnegie spent $180 million to make sure poor kids and black kids got nothing more than vocational training. Rich kids got philosophy, economics, and law. That wasn't no accident. The General Education Board, which was founded by Rockefeller in 1902, put field agents inside the school system to make sure the curriculum stayed aligned with what big business needed from the labor pool. The agenda had three parts. 1, train black people and poor people for labor, not leadership. 2, control the textbooks so history only tells the story the wealthy can live with. And 3, dress up a eugenics experiment in a number 2 pencil and call it a merit test, an intelligence test. The SAT was not designed to find the smartest kids in America. The SAT was built on eugenics research by a man trying to prove immigrants was intellectually inferior to Caucasians. The SAT, designed by eugenicist Carl Brigham, was created to find a credible reason to keep certain kids out the game like a Muslim quarterback in the Bible Belt. Type bars in the comments if you caught the wordplay. I know this sounds like victim conspiracy, but in 1953, one man named Norman Dodd, no political agenda, just a banker, and the chief investigator for the Special Committee on Tax-Exempt Foundations, he found Carnegie, Ford, and Rockefeller using tax-exempt money to turn the classroom into a propaganda operation. What? That is not a conspiracy theory. That is not a tweet. That's what Congress wrote down. Carnegie, Ford, and Rockefeller was rewriting history inside the textbooks, not editing, rewriting. There's folks from the legal counsel who wrote books on this shit. Again, banker and chief investigator for the Special Committee on Tax-Exempt Foundations, Norman Dodd, sent his assistant, Catherine Casey, to read the Carnegie Endowment's handwritten meeting minutes. Tell me why after she read them, she never practiced law again. Think about that. A trained lawyer, undone by what a foundation wrote about itself in private. Carnegie funded a 7-volume study on the future of American history. The last volume said the future of this country belongs to collectivism. A critic don't write that. Carnegie's own hired academics are saying that about our country. The Ford Foundation director looked Norman Dodd in the face and told him their directive was to use their money to alter American life until it could be merged with the Soviet Union. This is on record, voluntary like Paula Deen. Why? Because they was confident in what happened, and they were right. Because once Congress read that full report, Congress made sure to burn any paper trail that might incriminate the people financially supporting this wild-ass agenda. Carnegie, Ford, and Rockefeller's foundations kept their tax exemptions. Poor kids And black kids kept getting the same curriculum, and the system been quietly pushing that shit like Metamucil ever since. By the way, now would be a good time to hit the like button if you like something, and if you motivated as hell, hit that notification bell. But listen to this. The only way a channel like mine gonna grow is if you share this with your folks. Now, here's how to know if you was fully indoctrinated by the U.S. propaganda machine. If you grew up convinced you had to work 2, 3, 4, 5 times harder to succeed in the same merit system as white people, you was indoctrinated. And if you grew up believing black folks was lazy, promiscuous, and uneducated DEI beneficiaries collecting welfare, you too was indoctrinated, because a lot of that got debunked in 2026. In fact, I grew up where working hard was treated like religion. My people wasn't lazy, wasn't making excuses, wasn't sitting around waiting for handouts. They was up before daylight, jump starting they hoopties, and came home from work way after dark, doing everything the poster told them to do. Yet, we was still broke. Still getting called nigga by the white po folks that would be driving by as we was loading groceries into my daddy's Oldsmobile. We wasn't broke temporarily. We was generationally broke. The kind of broke that get passed down like community pussy. And for a long time, I thought the problem was us. I thought we were doing the right things wrong. It took me decades to consider the possibility that we was doing the right things in the wrong game. We was confusing our glass ceiling with our class ceiling. Type bars in the comments if you get that. Hard work ain't the ladder. It's a treadmill with catchier marketing. Propaganda says outwork, but Dada Papa says out-strategize, outsource, outsmart, and do it outside of their system. Type bars in the comments if you get that. Don't y'all ever make the mistake of accepting this one piece of propaganda as fact. And I already know the Homebodies Coalition is coming for me. But your anxiety about going outside of your zip code don't match your bloodline. Your ancestors built empires with global maritime reach, intercontinental trade networks, and cultural influence that shaped civilizations. Ancient Egypt, Kingdom of Kush, Aksumite Empire, Mali Empire, Songhai Empire, Ghana Empire, Kingdom of Zimbabwe, Mutapa Empire, Kingdom of Congo. Hey, look. Your people was moving, exploring, and expanding. They was building on multiple continents simultaneously. And you too scared to go to Canada. That ain't a flex, dog. That's a betrayal of your bloodline. Bars. Now it'd be a good time to hit the like button if you like something. If you're motivated as hell, hit that notification bell. And if you want to see my channel grow, I need y'all to share this with your folks. What I'm about to say is not conspiracy. It's public receipts that the government accidentally left out in the open and then spent millions trying to cover up, trying to explain away. In 1971, the Pentagon Papers confirmed that multiple U.S. administrators had been actively lying to the American public about the Vietnam War. Not shading the truth, right? Not omitting details, lying strategically, deliberately, and at the cost of over 58,000 American lives. And here's the part that should make your stomach drop so low, you should get stretch marks. The people making those decisions knew the war was unwinnable as early as 1967. Yet well into 1971, they kept sending bodies regardless. If they will lie about that, it's obvious that there's something more valuable to them than your countryman's life. Let's fast forward to 2013. Edward Snowden released a documentation proving the NSA had been collecting phone records, emails, and digital communication from ordinary American citizens. Not suspected terror bitches, citizens, people working, filing taxes, coaching Little League, arguing about gas prices. The government was surveying all of it, and they partnered with major tech companies to do it. Google, Yahoo, Hotmail, the platforms you trusted with your personal life became tools in mass data collection operation that was never put to a public vote. Huh? What's happening? Snowden was labeled a villain, and the DOJ just rolled with it like fat folks wrestling on the grassy knoll. But when Americans found out that their personal information was being stored without their permission, they did the same thing Congress did back in 1953. Absolutely nothing. And this proved that our privacy was a pipe dream. Democracy was and still is hypocrisy. Look, dog, everything I talk about on this channel, it boils down to one thing: getting you to trust your own process enough to follow through on the things you say you want out of life. Me and Romani, we host a live 90-minute workshop where we help you identify the emotional blind spots that sabotage your follow through and cripple your potential. And we don't let you leave the workshop until you know exactly what to do about it. You want to work with some real ones? Link is in the description. Now, this is going to make some folks sicker than the Dr. Ouchie. But once you follow the money, the left versus right argument lose shape like a retired athlete. The Koch network, Koch, K-O-C-H, put billions of dollars in the right-wing think tanks, political campaigns, and policy organizations through what's called donor-advised funds, specially designed to bury the paper trail. Billions. That ain't a donation, dog. That's an infrastructure investment. On the other side, progressive mega donors like Open Society be funding organizations with groups tied directly to Project 2025 and J.D. Vance. Same money, different storefronts. In the 2024 election cycle, both Donald and Kamala leaned on them $5 billion plus mega donors for damn near half their campaign cash. Dark money in that election cycle hit about $1.9 billion. Untraceable, unaccountable, completely legal since Bush approved Citizens United. Me, 57-year-old man, I've been aware of presidential elections since 1997. One ongoing theme is that quite often you ain't choosing between two different visions for America. You choosing between two sides with the same donor's agenda. In other words, it looked like two glory holes, but it's only one nigga back there. Type bars in the comments if you get that. Look, I gotta say this in code because I can't afford no round-the-clock security detail. But America's political donors don't stop at the American border. Because money shaping our reality, our news, our foreign policy, our government talking points, our university curriculum, it don't exclusively carry American passports. For instance, GayPAC. Y'all know who I'm talking about. GayPAC, one of the most powerful lobbying organizations in the history of this country. Its members of Congress on both sides of the aisle who have publicly acknowledged a vote against GayPAC's interests is career suicide attack, Pegasus, child no show up on your computer. Oh yeah. Threats of files being leaked, blackmail, families threatened, house raids, computers confiscated, all that. This is documented in campaign finance disclosures and voting records. Just look at the fallen careers of the few politicians who dared to vote against GayPAC interests. Lost their seat quicker than a blind nigga playing musical chairs. Type bars in the comments if the message is cutting through. The lobbying is legal. The influence is 360. And here's something that'll never be taught in American public school for as long as you live. The Saudis moved into American media, technology, and finance institutions in a way that leaves no question about who controls the information you consume. When you own a piece of what people watch, you own a piece of their mind. You get to dictate what people believe is normal. The UAE and Qatar dump billions into American university endowments and think tanks. Keep in mind, these are schools and organizations that write the reports and put the talking head experts on your timelines and on your TVs. And them experts become the financially backed, secretly, quietly, financially backed talking heads. The financially backed influencers that politicians listen to when they deciding what laws to pass, what policies to create. So whomever is paying those schools and organizations is quietly deciding what ideas get treated as serious and what ideas never make it into the room. Georgetown, Northwestern, Cornell, all them done took hundreds of millions in Qatari funding. Them same think tank influencers then present themselves through your media as independent, neutral experts, podcasters, about as neutral as my prison bitch. Shout out to Samantha. Shout out to Samantha. I meant to say Samantha. But now that you understand this shit, it's going to be so much easier for you to identify these so-called neutral experts. Some of them even got OnlyMans pages out there doing sex work. And that's how American foreign policy gets made. By the way, y'all, now would be a good time to hit the like button if you like something. And if you motivated as hell, hit the notification bell. But the only way a channel talking this kind of game gonna grow is if you share this with your folks. Now, I used to wonder how tolerance in the USA never seemed to evolve. But Bender Man Get His Yahoo said it out loud. Not in a leaked document. Not in a classified memo that somebody had to risk their freedom to release. Out loud, on the record, in public. He stated that TikTok needs to be acquired because it is part of how wars get fought today. A foreign head of state openly declaring that the app on your phone is a battlefield. Translation: multiple governments treat your attention as military infrastructure. That's not fighting over your data. They fighting over your mind and banking on your division, ignorance, and insulation. If we keeping it a buck, in the Western world, TikTok and Gen Z put a spotlight on everything going on in Gravelstein right now. And that made it a lot easier for us to identify the same pattern taking place in Pebblelon right this second. Type bars in the comments if you follow the wordplay. Gravelstein, Pebblelon. By the way, my name is Tijuana Jackson, and I'm a clarity coach. If you working your ass off, if you stressing your ass off, or you planning your ass off, but still don't seem to get nowhere, it ain't got nothing to do with your willpower. It ain't got nothing to do with discipline. It's usually an emotional pattern running in the background that's quietly messing with your decisions and follow through. And those emotional blind spots are the real reason you remain stuck. I'm hosting a live 90-minute workshop where me and Romani Malco help you identify the patterns that's actually disrupting your progress and get you clear on the next steps you need to take so your emotional blind spots never cripple your potential again. You want to work with a real one? Link is in the description. I dare anybody who's still in doubt to look up the story of Amber Lyon, award-winning CNN reporter. In 2011, she documented the Bahraini government's violent crackdown on its own citizens during the Arab Spring. Protesters hit with the chopper. Hospitals raided. Medical workers arrested for treating the wounded protesters. Her and her crew had to be strip searched before they were allowed to leave Bahrain. Yet somehow, she smuggled the footage back to CNN. As she was editing the story together, she was warned by her peers not to air it. She was told, her peers at CNN told her, don't air it. She was told it would cost her job. But like a true journalist, Amber pushed forward, and it was aired domestically once. It was aired domestically once. CNN International wouldn't touch it, let alone air it. Amber did some digging and found out that the Bahraini government had a paid content relationship with CNN to twist the narrative about their regime change. Y'all catch that? A foreign government has a U.S. news outlet on their payroll, and that financial relationship quietly determined what the world was allowed to see. Amber Lyon went too short on them, got to blowing that whistle, so CNN cut her loose like Palantir stock. Type bars in the comments if you get that. Y'all want to know what being a fool really looked like? I spent years arguing with people about which party was worse, which president failed harder, which side was more corrupt. And the whole time I was doing exactly what the system needed me to do. I stayed loud, stayed divided, stayed focused on the theater while the real decisions got made in rooms I was never going to be invited into. I was a very enthusiastic participant in my own distraction and destruction. And like a blindfolded nigga at a Diddy freak off, I was not alone. Boss, have you ever heard of political math? Have you ever heard of political math? 50% of Congress is millionaires. The median American household net worth is about $192,000. Median white American household net worth is about $285,000. The median black American net worth is about $45,000. The median net worth for a member of Congress is over $1 million. These are not people who experience having to choose between the cost of insulin and gas money, or the financial demands of special needs children, the math of a car repair on a fixed income, or having to choose between rent and groceries. But they are the people writing the policies that govern all of the above. I don't see how we can call them public servants. More like public serpents. because they out in the open with the snake shit. And listen to this. A lot of folk walk around thinking they succeeding when they actually bleeding. Let me show y'all what symbolic progress actually look like in practice, because this is the part that do the most damage. Symbolic practice is when the picture changes, but the conditions don't. Good optics, but no profits. It's when you become a success story, but the hood that raised you still drinking that Flint, Michigan water. It's a diversity initiative at a company that ain't changed its wages structure in 15 years. It's a hashtag about justice that trends for a week, then becomes merchandising. Mamie Fitz-Clark, the first black woman to earn a psychology doctorate from Columbia University, demonstrated in her famous doll study that children learn to see themselves as less valuable before they can consciously figure out why. Black children in segregated school consistently selected white dolls as the good ones and attributed negative characteristics to the black dolls. The Supreme Court used that research in Brown versus the Board of Education. Racially segregated schools was ruled illegal by the Supreme Court. And yet today, school quality is still primarily determined by zip code and funding, which is still primarily determined by property values, which is still primarily determined by decades of redlining and neighborhood segregation that never got a formal correction. They changed the law. They did not change the math. Now, why am I driving this shit home like my baby mama Erin car? Because I need y'all to understand this is about a system designed to manage poverty rather than reduce it. I need y'all to understand this is about a system designed to manage property rather than reduce it. Folks talking about fix the system. Look, dog, just because you slept through it don't mean you get your virginity back. Now would be a good time to hit that like button if you like something. And if you're motivated as hell, go on and hit that notification bell. And if you really want to see my channel grow, please share this with your folks. Coming to terms with the fact that I was a blind American is not a proud moment. I had to sit with the fact that I had been angry at the wrong things for a very long time. I had blamed myself for falling short of a standard that never applied to me equally. I had repeated narratives about grinding, being self-made, personal responsibility, about the American dream. Basically a bunch of na-na caca-boo-boo I had absorbed from the same machine that was profiting from my obedience. And the worst part was not that I had been deceived. The worst part was how long I had been a salesman for the deception, carrying it in my community and presenting it to other people as wisdom. The most dangerous person in the room is the one who was lied to and then starts teaching the lie. Type bars in the comments if you get that. I'm not telling you any of this to make you feel hopeless. What I'm telling you is that understanding the game is not optional. You can't navigate your destiny while sitting aboard the Titanic. And clarity, real clarity about what is actually happening and who benefits from it is mandatory for you and your family's welfare. The system needs you confused, buying into the optics, blaming the world and feeling powerless. But you being clear, not necessarily clear about everything, but being clear about something gives you ground to stand on and is the first act of resistance. So how in the hell did they pull this off? You don't accidentally convince 300 million people that they themselves are the problem and not the broken system. 300 million? Come on, dog. That takes infrastructure. That takes real coordination. That takes something that's been running so long and so quietly that by the time you notice it, it feels like home. Something that was just always there. Something natural. Something nobody designed on purpose. Problem is, they designed all of it on purpose. The school system did not just fail to teach you critical thinking. It was specifically structured to not teach you critical thinking. You was taught to memorize, to comply and perform like a showgirl. That's why there ain't no middle ground, no nuance, no compromise in America. Poor people were taught to be binary thinkers, left versus right, good versus evil, Batman versus Joker, baby mama versus home wrecker. You was graded on your ability to repeat approved information back to an authority figure on a schedule that they controlled. That is not education. That is educate That is not education. That is orientation. They was acclimating you to a life of following instructions and calling it ambition. A mind trained to blindly obey is not your mind, it's your subscription. Type bars in the comments if you get that. If you somebody who always stalling on your own ideas, contrary to popular opinion, you don't have a discipline issue. I'm Tijuana Jackson. I help people understand why they follow through, keep breaking down, and what to do next. I host this live 90-minute workshop with me and Romani Malco, help you identify what's interfering with your follow through so you can move your ideas forward and come to terms with letting the bullshit go and getting some shit done. You want to work with some real ones, link is in the description, you heard me? Y'all want to know what real resistance look like? First, you have to come to terms with the fact that we are not just slaves to America's economic system. We are slaves to something deeper, something more deliberately engineered than anything we have discussed today. Want to know what it is? Comfort and convenience. The most effective pair of shackles ever manufactured. Buzz! Dog, the reason we are not more proactive, more aggressive, more action-oriented about everything being revealed from the obvious poisoning of our food, the indoctrination and exploitation of our children, and the corruption within our politics is because we don't want to sacrifice our comfort and convenience. Why? Because we addicts, addicted to the things that pacify us. To resist, to rebel, to exit this rat race ready existence would mean sacrificing your comfort and convenience. That same addiction to comfort and convenience is the reason most people ain't going after what they say they want out of life. But now you find yourself at a crossroads. Not only is you resisting the idea of sacrificing your comfort to achieve what you want, you are now being asked to sacrifice that same comfort just to maintain your right to a voice, the right to clean, uncontaminated water, the right to raise and educate your own kids, the right to say no. There ain't no escaping your financial enslavement without first escaping your addiction to comfort and convenience. Type bars in the comments if you get that. You really want to change this country? Start local. Vote local. Get to know your local politicians and demand transparency about who funded them. Foreign interests, harmful entities, dark money. Look, if you can't trace the funding, you can't trust the funding, bars. As inconvenient as it is, it's up to you to handpick and groom your local politicians like a pimp. And the minute they flip on you is the minute you flip on them. That is your real political leverage, not the presidential election you argue about every 4 years. The city council meeting is where you get to take home a plate or at least a box of donuts because nobody showed up but them Proud Boys. But that's where your leverage at. And I want you to lobby for this. Lobby for this. You demand tenure. Demand tenure. If a politician ain't served locally, they should not be allowed to serve federally. Push that through your local representation. Insist on it. And you need to be gossiping about these local politicians in the same way you gossip about Will and Jada, Diddy and Cassie, Megan Tory, Hov and Solange. And you've got leverage now. If you snip out a candidate taking money from foreign government and ring that alarm, oh, that ain't gossip. That's career castration in front of a live audience. Today's folks have zero tolerance for foreign influence in U.S. politics. And please understand that you vote every single day, not just in November. You vote with every dollar you spend, every click, every double tap, every hour of attention you surrender to your screen. And most of us voting ourselves deeper into the same system we claim to be against for the sake of comfort and convenience. Type bars in the comments if you get that. Whether you are broke or balling, where you bank matters too. Credit unions usually got lower fees and better rates than big racist banks like Smells Bargo and Skank of America. Use money market accounts in credit unions or at banks for the cash you want to keep liquid and insured. If your goal is investing, use a brokerage account or investment platform, not just these death trap deposit accounts. You understand that? Dog, you want to get off that GOYIM diet? Understand that how you eat matters. Find local farmers and farmers markets for your meat and vegetables. Inconvenient, but it can be cleaner and more cost effective in the long run when the doctor ain't got to put a camera up your ass to figure out why you ain't shitting 40 days and 40 nights. Ask questions. Request proof of ethical farming. It's sites that have a database of these very farms. Be mindful of where you get your water from. Get you some 5-gallon jugs, a water dispenser, and some water testing tabs. Look, man, just because some shit is in a food aisle don't mean it's food. I mean, like, what the fuck is the itis? Food is supposed to energize, not tranquilize. Buzz! And you know what? A lot of my people is very confused about what is food? Nutrients, my nigga. Nutrients. If it don't contain nutrients, it ain't food. Nutrients. Say it with me. Nutrients. Matter of fact, type nutrients in the comments if you get that. Here go one of the fastest ways to resist the system. Buy less. Period. Stop buying convenient. Stop upgrading for the newer looking version of the same shit. Consciously buy things that can actually be repaired. Not that disposable nonsense with no support, no parts, nobody who can fix it when the shit barely work out the box. In fact, if you a handy-manny type ninja or you good with that soldering tool, start a local business where you fix all the kids' toys and electronics. You will eat. You can have my money. You will eat. Don't nobody fix shit no more. They just throw it away and get new shit or upgrade with a subscription. This is how they bleed you to broke. And give up on all this 2-day delivery shit like everybody's supposed to be your dope man. Family, listen, if you are someone who is constantly planning, constantly coming up with a bunch of ideas, but you don't seem to get nowhere, I promise you, contrary to popular opinion, it ain't got nothing to do with your discipline. It ain't got nothing to do with you not wanting it bad enough. My name is Tijuana Jackson. I help people understand why they follow through, keep breaking down, and what to do next. I host a live 90-minute workshop where Romani, Malco, and me will help you identify what's interfering with your follow through so you can move your ideas forward on a level of commitment that you ain't never experienced before. You want to work with some real ones, we going to grill you. It's going to be at least 90 minutes. We going to grill you. Link is in the description. Now, here's a powerful form of resistance that most people won't do because it's too inconvenient. Unplug from your screens. Deliberately, regularly. Not as a detox, not as a trend, as a lifestyle. Turn off the microphones on your apps, too. They eavesdropping on your ass Nixon style. In essence, you must cut down your consumption. In other words, in essence, you got to cut down your consumption time and increase your production time. Create something, build something, invent something, start something. And when you do consume, make it count. Make it at least 80% educational. Then use that education to create, to improve, to solve something that would improve your life and the lives of others. Look, fam, life ain't gonna get better unless you do bars. Folks always talking about revolution, can't even attend their own community meetings. If you just did that, you'd have a say about the phone towers, the businesses and advertisement billboards going up in your area, and the refinery pollution near the schools in your communities. Nobody in my hood wanted all these Asian massage parlors popping up just up the block from our houses. I was at the park with some of the dads in the neighborhood, and apparently these very same Asian massage parlors saved a lot of our marriages, definitely saved mine. If you are alive and breathing and don't understand that Western media is heavily propagandized, you cooked. Here go a very important note. If Western media give you a beginning, middle, and end to any report or story, It's a blatant lie. It's propaganda, blatant propaganda. Conclusive stories usually don't exist in real journalism. They exist in narrative management, though. You should interpret every piece of mainstream news as a deliberate psyop until proven otherwise. Ask yourself what is actually being destroyed in those warehouse fires popping up all across the nation. While a gullible America cheers it on, nobody asking what was stored in them warehouses, what is being quietly disposed of in them fires, what evidence is being covered up. For example, a sudden change in policy now states fallen soldiers is no longer being brought home on public flights. The press ain't allowed to cover their return no more. And suddenly we got chain reaction warehouse fires nationwide. Don't celebrate that shit. Investigate that shit. Ask yourself, what is not being covered? Why the hell is it dominating my feed? Try to exercise some critical thinking. Feel what I'm saying? Examine the alternative agendas buried inside the same story. The headline is rarely the focal point. The point is usually what the headline is keeping you from looking at. Seek out alternative media. Learn media literacy if you can, because the ability to decode what you are being shown is no longer optional. It's necessary for survival like ramen noodle. I repeat, if the story is complete, it's bullshit. Type bars in the comments if you get that. Oh, here I am burning down the house or burning down the warehouse. Oh, there's the big fire. Oh, here I am getting arrested. Now, I really got to look niggas in the eye and see, is America that gullible? If there's a beginning, middle, and end, it is sheer propaganda. Most of the suffering in this world comes down to one thing. People who think their lives are more valuable than yours. You will know them when you feel them. And when you do, deal with them accordingly. Do not be impulsive. Be strategic about how you engage. I'd even say never show your hand. Just move accordingly and never assume they've changed. Never assume they've evolved or saw the light. Usually, these people are only as loyal as their options. They are the spiritless, bloodthirsty bloodsuckers of the world. Don't matter how cool they come off. And just because they admire your integrity don't mean that they have integrity. Type bars in the comments if you get that. The reason for the majority of suffering, death, and destruction on the planet. I repeat, the reason for the majority of suffering, death, and destruction on this planet is them. Don't trust them. And though they may fetishize you, just remember it's easy to blow their back out because they spineless. Bars. And when you get serious about exiting the rat race, about rebuilding your life, I want you to do me a favor and watch this video that I'm going to put up right here. It gets even more brutal.